Think of how much time it would take you to fill out this sheet if you had to manually enter the data for each cell. Imagine there were thousands of rows that needed filling out. It would take a long time to do so manually, and the probability of making errors would be high. Luckily, today we are going to use Excel's flash fill feature to complete the job within minutes. Hi, my name is Jason Matthew and welcome to the WeCanEduTech channel. This video has many examples. Please use the timestamps in the video description in case you're looking for a specific example. Also, a link to a copy of the spreadsheet is in the video description, so you can download the spreadsheet and work alongside me. So I'm using Microsoft Excel for Mac version 16.64. Now the flash fill feature was released in 2013. So if you have a version of Excel that is before 2013, then you wouldn't have this feature. But if you have the more recent versions of Excel, then you'll be able to do everything that I do here, whether you have on a Mac computer or a Windows computer. So Excel is a very smart piece of software. And basically, it can look at patterns and using machine learning and all that good stuff, predict what you want to fill in the other cells. So for instance, in the first column, the column A, it has the full name. So this would be information in column A that you would have manually entered. And what we're going to see here is that Excel can use that information in column A, and based on the patterns of information you get in the other columns, it could fill out the remaining cells. So it's going to make sense in a bit. Now, the first thing I want you to look at with the full names is that, again, when you're doing manual entries, it's going to happen where the data is not clean. Very rarely that in the real world you'll get absolutely clean data. And if you do, then you're very lucky. But as you can see, like for instance, in the first name, the letter J is in lowercase, M is in lowercase, and you see, so there are different variations here. So the data is not clean, but we can fix that by using flash fill. So let's go through these steps. I've made some notes. So if you have downloaded a copy of this spreadsheet, you can use the notes to see what are the steps and what to do. The first thing we want to do is bold the header, because in row 6 there are headers here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select row 6 and I'm going to go to the top menu and bold the headers. And that helps because by changing the format and saying this is the header compared to these other cells, Excel knows not to include the header in its predictions and when it's looking for patterns and stuff. So I am now telling Excel, hey, look at E7 to E19 for the rest of stuff that I'm going to do. For the first name column, I want to take the first name, but here's what I want to do. I want all the letters to be in uppercase. So for example, for B7, based on the full name there, Jason Matthew, first name should be in all caps, Jason. And similarly for all the rest. So what I'm going to do is that if you look at my autofill video, we're going to do something similar. So I'm going to go to the bottom right corner until I get that dark cross there, and then I'm going to hold and drag down until I reach the last place that I want to enter data, and then I release. And right now it autofill Jason for all of them, but obviously that's not what you want. So you go to the options here, you click the drop down menu. What we're going to look at is flash fill today. So I'm going to click flash fill. Just like that, if we watch, it took the first name from column A and it uppercase it all in one click. So let's just randomly choose one. So like for instance, in A7 it's Anthony, and see in B7 there's Anthony as well. So that's one way in which you can access flash fill, is that you could click, hold and drag and then click the drop down menu and choose flash fill. Let's see, we're going to put last name now. It's saying to say Matthew. So you're going to take the last name, Matthew, and it has an uppercase letter to begin with, and the rest of the letters are lowercase. So I'm going to click M, capital M, A-T-T-H-E-W. And this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the shortcut keys now. Make sure that this is entered. So you click enter, return. So now that cell has the information in it. And I could click in any part of this column here. And the shortcut keys I'm going to choose is Ctrl E. And there we go. We could just randomly choose one, Frank, and it's capital F-R-A-N-K. Here's the thing about flash fill. It is not perfect. Excel will not get it 100% correct all the time. So sometimes the more information you feed Excel, the easier it is to figure out the pattern. I could immediately see that it did not get all the last names perfectly. So for instance, in rows 13, 14, and 15, they are hyphenated last names. But if you look at the last name column right now, so for instance, Jacob John Smith being the last name, it just has Smith. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to delete Smith and keep your eye out for the other two there, Frank Douglas and Francis Barton. Right now it has just Douglas and Barton. So keep an eye out on what happens there. So I'm going to type in manually John-Smith. And again, keep your eyes on cells C14 and C15 and see what happens when I click out or I click enter or return on the keyboard. It got Frank Douglas, it got Francis Barton. Okay, so initials, let's see. This first example is JM. Click the return key or the enter key on the keyboard. So the information has been entered. I'm going to show you a third way in which you could access flash fill. So I go to the top menu, I click on data, and then there's flash fill in the menu there. So if I click flash fill, you see again, it was not 100% perfect. There's some stuff happening there. But for the most part, RB for Robert Banner, AS Anthony Stark. So those work. But for this one, I'm going to, it's a little trickier. So let's help Excel. So keep your eye out on D14 and D15 while I start correcting it. So if I put JJS and once I click enter, look at what happens to 14 and 15, because Excel is learning the pattern, and more information you give Excel, the better it's able to predict. So let's see. It was not perfect. So it says MMD but it should be MFD, and then this one should be CFB, but it has it as CCB. So let's see if I feed this one the correct value. So I'm going to delete MMD. I'm going to put MFD, and I'm going to click enter or return on the keyboard, and you see it updated this other one. So again, sometimes you just need to feed Excel some more information and it's able to correct the rest. But just imagine if you had 1,000 entries. You can see how this still beats manually entering the information any day. As I said, the more patterns you give Excel to learn the pattern, it gets easier. So for the ID name, now let's see. We are taking the last name, put in all uppercase, comma, and then the first name. So that would be MATTHEW, comma, space, then the first name. I'm going to click out. You could always double click between the columns so you could auto size. All I have to do now is flash fill for the rest of cells. Now, so far there are 3 ways I've shown in which you could access this flash fill menu. You could either drag and drop and then use the options there, or you could use the shortcut keys Ctrl E, or you could go on top menu under data and go flash fill. And remember, if you're using flash fill from the top menu or using shortcut keys, the beauty about that, the column could be however long, it will fill that entire column. And the first cell, it could be in the middle, it could be in the end. And once you click flash fill, it's going to fill that up. Let's do a quick check and see if it got it all. So Matthew Lee, let's see. I know these always give a little trouble. So it has John Smith, Frank Douglas, Francis Barton. So it's learning along the way. Excellent. Now the other thing about flash fill, if you can see, is that all these columns are together. There's no spaces and stuff. Because once you start putting spaces between columns, then Excel, it breaks the link, and Excel is not linking back to that information. So this is how you want the table to be. All right, so I'm going to scroll to the right, and now we're dealing with telephone numbers. And let's see the format that we want these telephone numbers. When the first 3 digits in brackets, then followed by 3 digits, a hyphen, 4 digits. Okay. So what we can do here is that in brackets, 1, 2, 3, close brackets, space, 4, 5, 6. There's the next 3 numbers, hyphen, and then 7, 8, 9, 1. All All right, and I'll just increase auto size the width column there. And just because I have the data menu already open, I can go to flash fill and I just do some random checks. It's always good to just do some random checks just to make sure that it came through correctly. So 123 876-9. Okay, it looks pretty good there. For email now, let's see what is it, the instructions for email. You're taking the first name @avengers.com. Excellent. So for the first one, it's Jason @avengers.com, and I click enter, and the first one is there. I could just double click to auto size the column width. And for this one, I'm going to use the shortcut keys. You remember what the shortcut keys are? It is Ctrl E. And again, we can do a quick check. We have the first names: Jason, Stan, Clinton, Jacob, all adventures.com. Just imagine if you're doing this manually, it's going to take forever. But luckily, we work smart rather than working harder. So we got this. For passcode, what we're doing is that we're taking the first name and we're taking the last 3 digits of the telephone number. So that's great. So Jason, and the last 3 digits of his phone number is 891. For this one, I'll just drag down, okay, and then I click on the options, the drop down menu, and I choose flash fill. And let's just do a quick one here. So Megan, and it's 864, yep. Natalia, 855. Wonderful. So we got that. And finally, let's see the PIN number. So we're going to take the last 4 digits of the telephone number. For this one, it's 7891, and we could again drag down and we click the drop down menu, flash fill. Now look at something interesting happening here. In J9, J13 and J18, it doesn't have 4 digits. So you might be thinking, maybe I have to help Excel find the pattern. But let's investigate, because they might have something else happening here. Now for J9, we see that the telephone number is 0000, and for J12 it's 0765, but all we have is 765. And for J17, 0189, but we only have 189. And then for J18, we have 10, but there are 4 zeros. And here's the thing. By default, Excel does not show non-significant zeros. But if you've been following my videos, you know there's something that we can do to force those zeros. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll a little bit here so that we could see this better. So let's select the values. And now we're going to bring up the format cells dialog box. And if you've been following my videos, you should know this by now. Command 1 if it's a Mac, Control 1 if it's Windows. And I'm just going to put this format cell dialog box more to the right here. Click. Make sure the number tab is chosen. Click on custom. Now the sample or the preview is giving you the first cell, the information in the first cell that is selected. So in this case, it's 7891. And what you want to put in the custom format is remove general, and you want 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if there are numbers already there, then it's going to keep the number. But like for cases where there were non-significant zeros, now it's going to force Excel to show the non-significant zeros. And if I click OK, if we compare the numbers we have in column G with the numbers we have in column J, it should all add up. Now, just looking at the numbers visually, we can see that everybody is 4 digits, so that's great. And let's look at G9, last 4 digits, 4 zeros, so we got that there. G13, 0034, 0034, 0189, 000. So everything is working out. So let's look at all that we have done. Now I was taking my time because I was showing you how it's done, but you can see that this sheet can be done in a minute or less maybe. And it doesn't matter the size of the database. If you're using Ctrl E as your shortcut, it's going to fill that out. So if you're using Ctrl E as your shortcut, it's going to fill it out whether you have 100 entries, 1,000 entries, 10,000 entries. It's going to take under a minute to do. So flash fill can make your life a whole lot easier, more efficient. Again, it's all about about working smarter rather than working harder. So tell me how you are using flash fill in your practice in the comment section below. And I hope this video was very helpful. And if it was, show your love by subscribing to the channel, liking the video. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye for now.